What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Next Deal podcast. I'm your host, Justin Dossie, and I'm flying solo today. Vinny is out, unfortunately, looking at some hail damage he had on his home from a major storm we just had. So I am flying solo on this one, but I am very excited for our guests today that were introduced to me by a good friend of ours, Drew Farnese, who actually helped us get this podcast started. He does all of our editing, chops up all of our reels for us, lives in a very, very close to Mike and Jae, who are our guests today. And super excited to have them with us. They are real estate investors out of, is it Northeast Pennsylvania? Is that right? Okay.
Yes.
Northeast Pennsylvania, have closed over 100 deals in the last 3.5 years and primarily focus on wholesaling. So welcome to the show, guys. Super excited to have you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having us, Justin. This is pretty cool. It was a
Yeah.
small world. We were talking with Drew and, he
Yeah.
brought you up, so he figured we'd reach out.
Yeah, no, it's great. We're always looking for guests and stuff. So super excited for that. And especially people that are doing big things, right? And it looks like from what I've seen and what Drew has said, like you guys are definitely getting some stuff done there. So, 100 deals in 3.5 years is awesome. Most people take a good amount of time to get to that point. But I always like to just kind of start off with how you guys got started. You guys are married, right? I'm assuming.
Almost.
Almost.
We're engaged.
Almost. Okay. All right. Almost. All right. Close. Okay. Awesome. So, yeah. What kind of got you guys started in real estate investing?
Absolutely. So before doing anything with real estate, I was actually an accountant,
And I was a commercial real estate paralegal.
and we were living in
Okay.
Philly. We were renting an apartment. This was like back in 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And we wind up getting sent home because of COVID and working from home. We realized like this is not going to be it, right? We were only a few years out of college, but we already had kind of made that decision that this is way too stagnant, right? We can't do this for the next 40 years. It's not going to work out for us.
Yeah.
So from there, being in Philadelphia, which was it's still getting crazy gentrified. We were looking around and we were like, maybe we should think about getting into real estate. The guy next door was renovating a house and we wind up striking a conversation with him. And he started telling us like how he got started, what he was doing. So me and Jay, not knowing anything, we just decided to hire a realtor and get pre-approved and see if we could buy a rental property, right? The main thing that that we actually advise our students not to do off the bat, but regardless,
Yep.
So we hired the realtor. We wind up buying a investment home in northern Philly, rented it out. We still have it. And then we ran out of all of our money. And then from there, that issue kind of transferred us and catapulted us into what we do now, which is creative financing and wholesaling real estate. And it was really just a means to an end because we maxed out our debt to income. We had no more cash really on hand. So how can we get quick cash? That's with wholesaling. And how can we buy homes with no credit and little money down? It's with creative financing. So that was like early 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And we've been doing it ever since.
It took
That
us
first deal. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, it took us 1 year to kind of say, like, when COVID was over, for us to say, hey, it's either the business or we take a jump, and we both quit, I think, a month apart.
Yeah, it was
Nice.
this week, 2 years ago.
Mhm.
We went full time.
Awesome. That's exciting.
Yeah.
And something that you said that first deal was a buy and hold and you ran out of cash. That is a common thing for, like you said, you teach your students not to do that. There's a guy that started Collective Genius at one of our most recent events where he spoke about that and how the common problem in real estate investors is they'll do 1 or 2 wholesale deals and be like, I need to buy rentals now and have cash flowing assets. And then they have no money and then have to sell those rentals to have money and then to market again. And his whole thing was building a big active income through wholesaling before you're getting into buy and hold rentals, which it sounds like you guys definitely went through that exact same scenario.
Yes, that is 100% on the money.
Yeah.
Early 2020, second quarter, we looked at each other and we said, well, we're out of cash, so I don't know what we're going to do right now.
Mhm.
So that's when we started looking into wholesaling and creative finance. We tried everything, right? Like we were all over the board. do we pull a list and try cold calling? Do we handwrite mailers? We actually looked into using ballpoint marketing at one point, and
Okay.
we were like, should we try this? And then again, realizing we had no cash, we started getting into social media marketing.
Okay.
And right around, I think it was June of 21, is when we really started to take it serious, and we were doing it more so every day. We were out marketing for free and by going live in different Facebook groups, and we started to have leads to come to us. And then that's how we found our first wholesale deal, which was cash. And we assigned that, and then we were like, oh, we like this. Did another one, and then we kind of just started getting really consistent. And then by that time, the following year, we actually doubled Jay's salary just in assignment fees.
Oh,
And
nice.
that's kind of where it came down to. And we were like, well, maybe it's time for you to kind of take the leap. And then as soon as she left, I was like, there's no way.
Yeah. Like, I'm not going to be tied down. I need some freedom too.
Yep, exactly.
That's awesome. So when you took that jump from going from W-2 into this full time, how did that transition work for you guys? Because I usually hear one of two ways. Is like, one, it was like, yeah, I'm done, I'm good, I'm out, or it was like the most terrifying thing ever, and like trying to figure out what to do. So I'm curious kind of how that worked for both of you guys, since you both left in such a short, close period of time.
I think there was a mixture of both.
Okay. That's
So
fair.
we kind of had the idea like that prior summer in 21, when we were still had our full-time jobs and everything. We were kind of realizing that this is something that we do want to do. We don't know how soon we can go full-time. So we broke our lease. We moved in with my mom. We worked out of her garage for about 6 months, which was crazy to save money. And then
Yeah.
from there, we wind up buying a duplex and house hacked it.
Okay.
And that was kind of like our segue to start like cutting our expenses and starting to build a nest egg.
I was definitely like, I'm good, I'm out.
She cut the cord, and then I'm going to cut the cord.
And then he was like, okay, I'm a little scared here. Hold on. And then after seeing it, then
and we quit. And then a week later, we flew out to Puerto Rico to stay with Jay's grandparents for a month, and we're working from there. So it's pretty cool.
I mean, hey, you might as well if you have the ability to do that, right? That's cool. Yeah, that's funny. When I left my W-2 job, like it'll be 7 years ago this fall, I think.
Wow.
And I was kind of a mixture of the two as well, where it was like I got so fed up with the job that I was at and like was denied a raise, was like seeing other people making where they wanted to be. And I was like the director of customer service for this company, and was like, I don't like working for somebody anymore. I'm realizing, but I'm also like, I'm making almost 100,000 a year. And and in the Midwest, like that goes a long way. Like this is pretty good at that point. I'm 25, 26. And, ultimately it came to the point where our first company got started. My brother, who I'm business partners with, was like, how much can I pay you to get you to quit? And he's like, what's like the bare minimum? And I was like, man, if you would have asked me 6 months ago, I would have never answered this question. But like my bills are like 36 a year is about what I would need. He's like, so if I pay you 36, you could quit. I was like, as long as it doesn't stay at 36 for that long, and we can like work on this. And it was the most terrifying and best decision I've ever made. And luckily my wife was on board with it as well. I totally understand that. And that's awesome to see where you guys have built it to so far. With the wholesaling that you guys are doing, you talked about creative finance, right? Tell me a little bit about kind of a day in the life of you guys, and when you're working deals that you're putting creative finance through to get stuff done. What does that look like? How do you guys do that kind of stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. So right now we don't have a huge team. We have a small but mighty team. So right now the way that our acquisitions business is set up is creative financing is the first kind of pitch that we give to our sellers, right? Because it opens up a lot of different doors. And then cash is actually our second, and then novation as well. So we run all social media ads at the moment, and we have inbound leads coming in. When the lead comes into our CRM called REI software, it's a high level base. Basically what happens is our VAs, they run our 10 question script on them, but it's all over text message. And the reason that we did that is so we didn't have to worry about training a VA how to do real-time rebuttals. It's very simple. It's a very easy process to follow. And then based on that, our VA qualifies them, moves them over, and then we have the closer, who is myself at the moment, basically go on and see if we can negotiate a quality deal with the seller that works out for everybody. I'll give you a night. The most recent one we did, the gentleman reached out. He said, "Hey, I'm looking to sell my multifamily house. It's a duplex. I don't need it anymore. I bought it cash." And we asked him, "Hey, look, like the price that you're asking is way off the mark, and I don't want to give you a cash offer that'll insult you. But if we went the seller financing route and we explained what that was in very layman terms, like we'll be making you monthly payments, all that, would that work for you? And I can match your price." And he said, "Of course that would." So when we hopped on the call, we talked through it with him, and he said, we asked him questions. So instead of us kind of creating an offer and giving the sellers offers, what we do is we ask the seller, "Okay, Mr. Seller, I know you said you want 125 for the house, but typically when we buy with seller financing, we're buying with no money down." And then we stop. Okay. And then if they have an objection, we go from there. And same thing with everything.
Basically through rapport building, we
Correct.
we have them tell us the offer that they would absolutely need or make them happy.
Yep.
And then they move forward with us that way.
Yep.
Building that relationship with them first before you get to that point. Got it. Yeah, that's I don't know if you guys have seen this with other wholesalers in your market or other people you've talked to, but I see people do that opposite all the time, where it's like, "Yeah, to buy this house, it'd be 50 grand. What do you think?" Like, and then they're surprised when it's a no immediately because they're insulted. There's no rapport. There's no conversation to it, when really in the way any type of sales works, right, is like you have to build that rapport and have that relationship with them before you throw that stuff out. And you're not just, you're doing anchoring and all that kind of stuff right before you're actually doing that. So I like that that's something that you guys focus on and offer the creative route first, because that's where you guys are mostly focused, it seems, is on the creative side first. So doing that first, I really like too, instead of just cash. And then if that doesn't work, well, we could also do this. You're almost throwing that out first.
Yep. And basically we pivot the cash offer. We say, "Look, like I could offer you cash, but it's going to be so low. And I want to keep this relationship with you, and I don't want to insult you. I'd rather give you what you're looking for, as long as you could be a little flexible with me." And then we, kind of go down that path.
Yeah. That's cool. So I'm curious too, because most of our stuff that we've done has been more cash offers after we're building the rapport, right? We haven't spent a ton of time on the creative finance deal. So like, if this makes sense, and if it doesn't, let me know. But like, let's say you're looking at a house that is maybe worth 150 grand. The cash price on it would be 60. How would you guys offer? Could you kind of walk me through like how you would offer a creative finance deal for people that have not seen this before, like just as basic as possible?
Yep. So basically the way that it would work is, if let's just say the cash offer on the house was 60,000, and the owner owned 100 or wanted 150 for it. My question to you first would be, do they owe a mortgage on it as well?
Let's say yes, they do, and maybe it's 40 grand.
Okay. So basically what we would tell the seller is this: "Look, there's a few different ways that we can buy your house, but the one way that we would buy a really nice house like yours that doesn't need a lot of work is with seller financing. Basically, we'd take over the payments on your behalf, and then we'd pay all the closing costs and buy it as is and all that jazz. So then you can walk away." And then this is what our VA techs them at the end of asking all the questions. If this is something that, is this something that would make you happy? And then from there, if they say yes, we'd hop on. And basically what I would go through with the seller is pivoting off their why. So with creative finance, it comes down to what is their need, not necessarily just the cash price that they can walk away with. So
Right.
for somebody who is like, look, Mike, like I'm dead broke. I need all this money because I have nowhere to go. I probably wouldn't even go into offering and get into like the nitty gritty of the terms and everything, because they're telling me that they're desperate. They can't move. They have no money in their bank and they have a lot of equity in this house and that's their life savings. So at that point, I'd probably let them know, hey, I have this seller financing option we talked about, but because of this, this, and this, I think that maybe us offering you cash would be something that can work better. And if they say, no, I still want to hear it, we'll go into it. But for something like that, top level, that would be what we call a wraparound mortgage deal, where we'd offer the seller $150,000. We would take over their mortgage on their behalf for a term length or a period of time. And the equity that they have would either get paid in a balloon payment down the road or in small monthly payments, whichever they prefer most. And typically for a wraparound mortgage, we always offer no money down unless they need some small cash, like 2.5% to 5% down for like moving costs. But I hope that answered the question.
It does. Because I had some feedback from somebody that we sometimes skip over like the basics of what somebody's doing and talk more high level. So that's something that I've been working on the last couple podcasts is like, all right, how can we dive into some of those questions that maybe I might know, you might know, but somebody listening might not know. So that's super helpful. I appreciate that. Cool. So let me look at something real quick that I forgot what I was going to ask you, but it was on the form that you guys filled out. So, okay, yeah, with both of you guys, right? You're a couple, right? So not married yet, but how does that dynamic work for you guys? Because my wife and I have worked in businesses together, and we're actually co-owners in another business, and there's definite challenges that run into there. So I'm curious, kind of how the dynamic works for you guys. I'm assuming it might be similar with most spouses or soon-to-be spouses. So very curious, kind of how that dynamic works and what you guys do in the business.
You want to take that one away?
That's a great question. I get this question a lot.
Yeah.
I think that, at the beginning, when we started our journey, we both did everything together, right? In terms of every task was done by us. So we learned where we fell naturally. And so Mike fell into that closer role while I fell into more of a team building, team managing, COO type of role, where I manage and build our team, systems, processes, all that good stuff, while he just runs the talking with sellers, making sure that the leads are taken care of type of thing.
Yep.
Nice.
Always stay in our lanes. I think that's the biggest thing. And then we just reconvene if we have questions or if something is not running smoothly. We always have those daily meetings with our team, but also with us as CEO, COO, CFOs of the business.
Yep. There's always that like soft line in the sand. Yep. And it's pretty much comes down to, it's there. Don't cross it without asking for permission first, or unless you see that you need to cross it to help the other one out. Right? Because if you do, that's what we learned early on. And we were like, yeah, this could be a problem, right? Because Jay would come into my realm, I would go into Jay's realm. We do things in ways that we didn't like to see it on that side of the business. But I think the biggest thing is communication. Mm-hmm. So every day we have a meeting with our team, and that not only helps our team be on the same page as me and Jay, but it helps me and Jay also get on the same page. And then typically once a week, me and Jay have a small little, basically owner huddle and say, okay, this is where we're at. What do you need from me on your side of things? And what do I need from you, and vice versa?
And then in terms of the personal stuff, we both, when we started this, we both had that conversation, serious conversation where it's like, hey, personal stops at personal when business starts.
Yeah. So you turn the switch, you leave the BS that happened, yesterday on the personal side at the table. And that's been the
Yeah.
biggest help.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think the biggest struggle we had was, at least I know for my wife and I, when she started being involved in our businesses, was that like husband Justin and business Justin are two different people. Like on the business side, like I have much less patience, and I had to learn through that stuff. It's like, all right, I still need to be patient, but I'm also like, I'm making sure that things are getting done in a certain timely manner and stuff like that. And just I don't know, that was something that was a little challenging for us at the beginning. Was just like, you've known me for a long time, 20 years, but you've never worked with me as a business owner. And like, I move pretty quick on stuff, and like I can get a little impatient at times with certain things. So it's always entertaining to me to talk to other couples that work together. One of the other companies I'm in, where my wife and I are business partners with another husband and wife, and they run into the exact same stuff, where it's like the same similar problems, and usually we see the same solutions as well, of having the good communication, the meetings, the hey, this is my line, like this is my shit, leave it alone, and this is yours, I'll leave it alone, and
Yep.
as long as we both get our stuff done, we're good.
Yep. That's exactly right. When we
Yep.
first started, we were all over the place. There was no
Oh
line.
yeah. Oh, same. I would be like, oh, let me respond to that email for you real quick, and she'd be like, what the hell are you doing? I'm like, I don't know, just working, getting stuff done, and like it's something that it's such a weird difference from an employee that works with you to your significant other working with you, because it's like you this is very, like you said, like there's work time and personal time, and it's as much as you want them to always stop at those times, there's those moments where they always bleed over just a little bit.
Yep.
where it's a little more challenging, so I totally get that. Oh, that's great.
And
um
for you, I guess right now, I do, if you don't mind, I do have a question. I'm always
yeah.
really curious. You've and your brother have built a good, like a few businesses, and
Mhm.
you've scaled them relatively quickly. I've always been curious as to what is maybe not your biggest secret, but what is a piece of advice that you can give to, like, say, everybody if you're starting a
Mm.
business and you have the vision that you want to grow it. What are, like, a couple quick action steps that you can take to be able to
Yeah,
get to that level?
that's a great question. We always tell people to ask questions, and nobody ever does. So I'm glad you asked that. Um, Man, there's a couple, because so the first I would say is pay to be in the rooms that people are already at where you want to be at, that they've already had that level of success, or they've had the companies grow and scale to a certain level. Like, pay to be in those rooms, because they're going to bring you up with them, right? Like anytime they're, I mean, you hear it in books and podcasts and stuff, and it's like people never punch down, right? Like, anyone giving you crap or anything like that never comes from above, it always comes from below, right? And being in those rooms, and like I remember very clearly the time where we started to really grow our companies. I was picking up my son from daycare. Ryan called me, and he's like, hey, I found this guy. He's a business coach. He is one of the best marketers I've ever seen. And are you ready to go all in on like growing this stuff? And so that's step two, is like, go all in, right? Like, no, one of my first mentors ever asked me, like, what's your quit date in your business? And I was like, I was like, I don't know. I don't really have one. He's like, good. That's how you know you'll be successful. If you don't have a quit date, that there's, even if this business implodes tomorrow, like, I'll just start something else. You know what I mean? Like, I'm unemployable at this point. So being in the rooms and not having a quit date. But that call, as I'm picking him up, he's telling me about this coaching program, and he's like, it's $7,500 a month. And at that point, that business was making maybe 25. And I was like, oh God, that's a lot of money. That it's like all of the profit left that was in that business was that $7,500. But we were stuck. We didn't know how to grow the next thing. We didn't know what we were missing. And paid for that. And the first mastermind event that we went to with them uh, was one of the most like eye-opening things ever. And they they did something with us called a task audit, which I recommend for anybody, no matter where you're at in your business, do it like once a year, but write down every single thing you do, how long it takes you, what software you use, and then assign values to them of how much you could hire those positions out for. So if it's responding to emails, for me at that point, I did sales, customer service, collections. I built out all the new accounts. I did all of the software type stuff, like all of these different things. And we weren't growing because I was doing all this stuff, and realizing how little it actually costs to outsource most of that stuff to free up a lot of your time. So for me, like I went from working 60 hours a week, mostly just running in circles, to knocking off 30 hours of what I was doing to outsourcing to one or two people and having team members to do that. So those are probably like the first two, is like don't have a quit date, pay for the rooms that you want to be in, and then be able to pivot quickly is probably the third. Especially with Ballpoint, we went from like 30 a month to like $500,000 a month in 2.5, 3 years. And a lot goes wrong during that time. A lot of like upset customers, a lot of changes, a lot of processes that have to be updated. Jay, you would appreciate that. Like you're constantly tweaking your processes and systems. And like, if you can't pivot quickly and adjust those things, like stuff will implode on itself. So those are probably the three things like for scaling quickly that I would focus on. And like, to go back to that coaching side of things, like make sure you're coachable. Like if you're paying for it, take everything they give you and implement what makes sense and run with it. I think that's what I would say. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So 3 really good ones.
Yeah, that's great advice. Not even for everybody, just for us too. So thank you, man. We appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. No, thanks for asking. That was a great question. I haven't had anybody ask really questions like that. We tell everybody all the time too. So, yeah, man, it's funny because like and you guys have probably started to notice this, but like the further you get along in your business, you start to realize that it's a very repeatable formula, no matter what the business is. Yep. Like you have your processes that need to be done, and it's like every business needs the same things, right? They need sales, they need fulfillment, they need customer support, they need, transaction coordinating if you're in real estate, like whatever it is. But it's like, it's a very repeatable process. And that's what has allowed us to have more than one business, is understanding those types of things and then bringing in the right people to help us grow them.
That's awesome. And then you're basically just finding the need, right? So it sounds like you got started with real estate and you're like, well, Wallpoint, like, I want to do some mailers, right? So why go out and pay? I can create a business for myself and then also do it for other people.
Pretty much. Yeah. I mean, it literally came from Ballpoint, started from my brother's first mail campaign he ever did, hired a local guy that would literally handwrite letters for you, but then gave you like, like a build your own letter kit, right? Where you had like the handwritten letters, you had your stamps, you had your envelopes, and you had to put it all together and send it out. And he had good results with it. Somehow found a company that handwriting machines, and asked them to program it a certain way to write letters. And then like technology's gotten better over the years, and it just kind of snowballed from like, how do I make my marketing better, to, oh, I've got something here. I can actually like implement this with other people and help other people do that too. Yeah. So it's, everything we do has come out of like a necessity.
That's awesome.
Yeah. That's super neat. So I guess reverse question for you guys, doing 100 deals in 3.5 years, what would you recommend to somebody who's getting started to get to that level, right? Someone who's just starting on the real estate space. And because I think what I've seen and what I've experienced is everyone always thinks it's like either too late or too hard to get started in real estate, because there's so many real estate investors and everybody's doing it, when in reality there's deals everywhere to be done if you're looking for them properly. But what are some pieces of advice you guys would give to someone who is just getting started and wanting to hit those type of deal numbers?
You want me to take it? Or,
Good.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I would say the biggest thing is don't get shiny object syndrome. I would say what
Yes.
constitutes our
Yep.
success is literally just staying in our lane. We wind up figuring out a marketing channel that worked for us, and we did deals with no marketing spend for like the first, I think it's like was like 12 months.
Mm-hmm.
We were just doing straight organic marketing, and we loved the social media platform. People were telling us, oh, you got to do 6 different marketing sources and you'll never grow. This was in the beginning, and we were like, look, like, thank you for the advice, we're going to note it, but for right now we're starting, this is what is working for us. Then we realized when we started getting into creative financing that we had found a niche that we really enjoyed, that we were helping sellers no one else could help. And then if we decided to assign those creative finance deals, they were flying off the shelf. Like our cash deals would sit for a few, maybe even like a week or so. Our creative finance deals we were signing were going in 24 hours. So we were
Interesting.
like, okay, this is our little niche. So that's basically where we honed in on, and we never stopped. And because we never stopped and we never said, okay, well, we'll do the Burr method sometimes, or we'll fix and flip when we can. And maybe we'll just do a little bit of creative financing and then we'll throw some wholesaling in there. It was our main acquisition strategy is creative financing. Once we get that deal, what do we want to do with it? Right? Do we want to wholesale it? Do we want to keep it and buy it as a rental or rent to own? But the acquisition strategy and the marketing strategy to get your leads and your deals never changed. And I think that's what kind of helped us get to where we were going.
The second I would add to that is like to scale, standardizing everything. I think that we hit those numbers because we knew that, and I do this with my clients, is the standard operating procedures, right? You can just start like going back. I had mine in a notepad of like what it is that we were doing on a daily basis and just from start to finish, and that small process, and then what was the entire process, and what could I outsource to maybe a VA, or what could I replace that with a system that could automatically do that for me.
Yep.
So I think that really helped us kind of find our places in the business where we're really good at. So your zone of genius, and then everything else is, taken off our hands.
Yep. And I think the other biggest, one more. The biggest thing is for us outside of that is instead of going and getting all the shiny tools and the fancy processes and systems, we kept everything really, really simple and super easy until we started generating some good revenue. And then from there, we said, okay, we know that we have consistency here. We have the income and the revenue that's starting to get more. Now we need the systems. So we didn't go and get all the systems and everything until it was actually a need and it was instead of a want, right?
Yeah. Yep. That's a big thing too, because we did that. We're like, we bought all the softwares and all the systems, and then we're like, we're using 10% of everything that we have. And what we ended up realizing is like we have 5 softwares that literally we only need one that does everything, right? Like that we found HubSpot is what we use for our CRM, but like it does our sales, it does our marketing, it does our follow-ups, it does our texting, it does like literally all of that kind of stuff for us. When we got to the point where we assumed we needed so many different things, and then just started over the last 2 years like picking apart all the individual things to where we went from like this massive production software to just a Google spreadsheet that we built custom for what we needed, instead of trying to force something else to do what we wanted it to do that wasn't really built for that. You know what I mean? I love that, and the shiny objects. It's I would say, and I could be, I don't know, you guys might agree with this, but like for me, it's the number one reason people don't succeed is like you don't stick to one thing, right? It's you start one thing and then you go to a real estate meetup and you're like, oh, someone's doing multifamily. I'm gonna go over here and try and figure out multifamily now. and then go to another one where it's apartment syndication. You're like, well, now I want to do apartment syndication, and not finding what that is. And even like for me anyway, as simple as marketing, right? Like to me, every form of marketing will work if you work it and you do it properly and you are consistent with it. But what we see as a marketing company is, well, I'll do 1,000 pieces of mail this month. Then I'm going to wait 6 months because I'm going to try 5 other things and see if any of those work. And it's like, well, really, they all work if you just do the right quantities and are consistent with it. That's when you run into like you said, shiny object syndrome, and people quitting and going back to W-2 jobs or whatever is a huge thing I see all the time.
Yep. That's the 100% the biggest thing, even, because we have a very small group of students that we teach, and every single one of them, that we tell them is, you're not going to see results tomorrow. You may not see them next week. You may not see them in a month. Right. But if you're consistent and you do the same thing, just have the narrow focus, right, it'll come about.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah.
I think not focusing on the monetary too. I mean, obviously that's a big part, but if you're making a business, you're creating a business, you want to nurture that business. And one thing I want to bring up is business etiquette, right? At whatever type of business you have clients. So you need to keep those clients happy. And business etiquette is something that's overseen a lot, because that's over time built, where word of mouth starts to happen, and then the ball starts rolling even more. So as a business owner, you have to keep that in mind too.
Yep.
Yeah. Especially in real estate, like with how small the community is, like even though it's like nationwide, like I see the same people at every event I go to, like same people from all over the country. I'm like, everybody knows. If they don't know each other, they know somebody who knows somebody, right? Like you guys, we both knew Drew. Now we know each other. You know what I mean? Like that happens all the time. And having the business etiquette or doing what you say you're going to do, performing the way you're going to perform, like sticking to what you're actually saying you're going to do is such an important part of it. I had one other thing that I can't remember off the top of my head now, but it was something along those lines. I got sidetracked with that, but yeah. Actually, I don't think I've ever asked this question. What's your guys' like vision for your business over the next like 5 years? Where are you going?
It's a great question.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have a couple different businesses. So for the acquisitions business, like our real estate business, wholesaling, flip, stuff like that, it really comes down to we've figured out that we don't want an office. We don't want this massive team. We want a small, lean machine that runs with us just not having to be present in it every single day, right? That's our main vision and goal with this, where it's maybe doing high 6 figures, low 7 figures every year. We don't need to be the biggest guy in the area doing everything. We just want a lean, clean, and fit basically machine. And the last pieces of the puzzle that we know that we have to replace is, one, the single point of failure, which is myself, because I'm the closer.
Doing all the closing. Yep.
And replacing myself with a closer and bringing them on as would be our first W-2 employee. And then below them, having maybe like a quality control manager, things of that nature. So then me and Jay could come up and be more of the overseer, the networking, the figuring out how can we bring in more leads, or how can we multiply if we wanted to.
I want to point out that a lot of people don't notice is that the acquisition or wholesaling comes about because without leads, you don't have a business, whether you're growing your portfolio or, you do have a wholesaling business and that's what you want to do. Leads are everything. So for us, if we can cherry pick those leads, even better, and capitalize off of the other ones, that's really the beauty of wholesaling there.
Yeah. And then, we started a coaching business about a year ago, and where we teach, people who are starting off how to do creative financing deals, how to basically start with a low cost marketing budget.
Mhm.
And, the goal is to grow that to kind of a new height where, because we both realized that we enjoyed it. And that just came about from people inboxing us. Hey, can you show me how to do this? And that kind of took off.
That's cool.
And then having like a small portfolio, continue to grow our portfolio of long-term rentals and rent to owns. So single families that we keep, that we buy with creative finance, we sell on lease options. So basically continue to go and just continue to build that pipeline, and then have a strong, small multifamily portfolio. That's our two biggest things.
Nice.
So
That's awesome. I like it. I like to ask that, and I've never, like I said, never asked it on the podcast, but I ask people all the time. Because for me, like if you don't have a vision outlined or you don't know where you're going, you're just kind of aimlessly wandering, not really completing or doing anything that you want to do. It's funny too that your other business is a coaching business. That's what my other business is too. Is through the coaching space, and that for me is like, I love running our businesses and growing them, but the coaching side of it, that's the funnest thing. That's the most fun thing that I do on a weekly basis, is working with other business owners to help them be better business owners and get to where they want to be, right? Like that's for me the most fulfilling part. And that's the business that my wife and I are partners in with another couple. And it's neat because it's not only real estate investors. There's a lot of them in there, but there's also people that own like, party rental companies and acquisition companies of businesses, like all kinds of different stuff. So it's super cool to just help other people do what they want to do.
that's awesome.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
awesome.
it's been very fulfilling. We've helped some people get their first deals ever. We've helped some people who've done a bunch of deals start doing creative stuff, and when they get that deal or they do what it is that they're looking to do, and they have like that smile and they're so excited. It's like, it's different. It's so different than when a seller, you wholesale their house and they thank you. I don't know how to explain it, but
We have one student that pops in my head that he did a full blown business with us, because that's one of our offers, is just creating a full blown acquisitions business. And he always says, like, this is something that I'm going to hand down to my daughter, so she doesn't necessarily have to go to college, but she has something.
yeah, it's cool.
Has that ability.
So that's kind of where our vision is going. We've come to that conclusion that, like I said, across the board, it's not something where we feel like we want to and need to be, number one on the poll board and, making crazy 8 figures every year. We're okay.
Yeah.
And we're happy with, being consistent, having a strong team where it allows us more freedom.
Yeah. You're doing what you guys want and you're enjoying it.
Yeah, exactly.
That's awesome. Yeah, that's super cool. I like that a lot. Kind of like final parting things I always like to ask at the end of these is, if you're talking, a lot of new people listen to this podcast or people that have done a few deals here and there, but what's one thing you would recommend for somebody to focus on to help them get their next deal?
You broke up a bit.
Sorry, we didn't
Oh,
hear.
did it cut out? That's all right. Oh, you're good. We'll do it again. So for someone who's new or just kind of done a few deals, what's the one thing you would recommend to them to focus on to get their next deal?
Absolutely. If you don't mind, I'll back it up with a question. In terms of focusing, should it be in terms of marketing or acquisition style, or it doesn't matter?
That's a good question. I think the way that I would phrase it is just somebody who's getting started.
Okay.
In general. Yeah. Because I don't know. I know what my answer would be, but I am curious what you guys would say. Like if you're coming in, you've done 2 or 3 deals, like what would you focus on?
I think starting off is just those standard processes so that you can scale it and you don't backtrack, at least on my side, because I'm all about systems and processes.
And in
Yeah.
terms of like actionable steps to like talk with the seller and get your first deal, us loving social media marketing, there's three main things that we would do is one, just tell everybody what you're doing and what you're looking for. Two is actually go live on Facebook and talk about it or on your social media platform that you prefer. And then three is go into like your local like Facebook groups, yard sale, things of that nature, and post in there that you are looking to buy a house, and whether that is ASAP or that whatever your offer may be to people. That's how we started getting our leads, and
Yeah.
that's how we got our first deal. And then when that seller reaches out to you, ask them the 10 hour, like you can be any 10 question or whatever questions you want, but the 10 questions we ask, it just starts off at the top with, you know, tell me about your house, down the why, timeline, repairs, financial questions about the house, and then go from there. I think those would be the best actionable steps to take to get your
Awesome.
first deal.
I love it. Very, very practical and easy to do, because that's
Yep.
something I've never done, never gotten leads like that. I've never tried it. I've always just done paid marketing. But I like that because that's doesn't cost you any money to get those leads. So that's awesome. Well, cool guys. It was great meeting you guys. Thank you for coming on and sharing all the information that you have. It's been great getting to know you. And yeah, really appreciate you guys showing up and giving all the value that you did.
Absolutely. Thanks again for having us, man. It was really good seeing you.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
absolutely. Thanks.